I'm very excited today because I'm cooking bacon. I'm Leonard Scott Collins, and this is the Qabalah of Twin Peaks, with a program on YouTube where I overpronounce and occasionally mispronounce Hebrew words. More importantly, we're breaking down every episode of Twain Porks by the Nambrays. According to an obscure numerological system, the Thelemic Qabalah, which I promise I am not making up. I'm Leonard Scott Collins, and this is the Qabalah of Twain Peaks. We watched season 1, episode 6, and it's great. I think it's the run up because I think episode 7 is the last episode in season 1, and so we're really working very hard to get someplace, and man, you can feel the momentum, and it's great. It's February. Laura Palmer was murdered in February, and we've been going a day per hour through time, so it's still going to be February. There's Christmas all over the place. There's poinsettias in Horn's department store. Lots of things are red and festive. Cooper, he goes into the diner, they offer the coffee, and Harry wants to keep moving, and he says the thing about every day, once a day, give yourself a present. Don't plan it, don't wait for it, just let it happen. Could be a new shirt at the men's store, a nap in your favorite chair, or 2 cups of hot black coffee. And then Harry says, present, like Christmas. So much Christmas. Let's try to figure out thematically why there's Christmas. And there's these unicorns, which are also Jesus Christ. Hint, if you don't know what to say about Qabalah, if you don't know what to say about the Qabalah, just say that's Jesus Christ. You can sneak it in anywhere. Obviously, the Jewish Qabalah is not going to be overly concerned with the Lord and Savior, but there are enough Christian Kabbalists who have aped the form and done work on the New Testament and stuff. That there's Jesus-y things all over the place. So if you're not sure what a symbol means, the unicorn, the horned horse, she says, like Ben Horn. We already know he's connected directly back to the One-Eyed Jacks, and she's getting involved with the prostitution at One-Eyed Jacks. This is Audrey Horne's friend who she meets and works with at the perfume counter for a couple of days. There's the unicorn. She says, what am I going to do with a horned horse? So the connection to Ben Horn, and then the connection to the prostitution. The guy says, only innocence can tame them, or something like that. It's virginity he's pointing at. Only a virgin can tame a unicorn. It's Christmas. It's Christmas in Twin Peaks in late February. Poinsettias, giving yourselves presents. What do we know about Christmas? It's the commemoration of the virgin birth. Lucy does not know who the father of her child is, and this is the episode where we find out that Andy is the dad. Well, no, we find out why she's mad at. We find out why she's fighting with Andy. We don't know who the dad is, and we never really find out. I don't think, because she ends up just deciding that she's going to choose the right man instead of let biological fact leave her with the wrong one. So, but this must be part of the situation that maybe Mary finds herself in. She thinks she's a virgin, so to find herself pregnant. There's an immaculate conception story, some sort of maybe weird light or something that's derivative of something from Greek myth with Zeus or whomever. But the idea of ambiguous paternity, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Here's some ambiguous paternity. The Immaculate Conception and possible virgin birth, although I doubt Lucy's a virgin. Does this mean that the little that the guy we see in season 3, I've forgotten his name now, the kid from Arrested Development, who dresses like Marlon Brando, is he Jesus Christ? We have already agreed that James is the unlikely Adam figure, so maybe Lucy's offspring is Jesus Christ. Who the hell knows? I should have looked up before this the number 21. 21. Laura Palmer asks Jacoby to meet her at the intersection of Sparkswood and 21, which a little research indicates that this is where she jumps off James' motorcycle in Fire Walk With Me. And then Dale Cooper is really good at blackjack, where you spend time counting to 21, even though Cooper seems to think that you have to be able to count to 10. He says, Andy, can you count to 10? Not Andy. Ed, would you like to play blackjack? Not my game. Can you count to 10? Count to 21, blackjack. Count to 21. So what's going on here? Well, not much of use in Sefer Sephiroth on the number 21, except that it is Achea in Hebrew, adds to 21, and that's when Moses says, I don't even know your name. I've never spent time among my people. I'm supposed to go back and say I met the God of the Hebrews, but I don't even know your name. When they ask me questions about the God of the Hebrews, what am I going to say? And and God says, when they ask you, who is your God, being that I am that is I am, just say, I am. And that phrase, I am, that becomes the name of God, thereafter is Heya. That's Aleph, Hey, Yod, Hey. The two Heys are both 5, the Yod is 10, and the Aleph is 1 if you're playing along at home. So that gets us to 21. The God name in Kether, the very first Sephira from which all light descends, but also the mystic number of Tiferet, the 6 Sephiroth. And how we get mystic numbers is by adding the digits from 1 to 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You add them up and you get 21. And in math, I think these are actually called triangular numbers, because 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You structure them like that and you get a triangle. And then the number of, say, squares in the triangle is 21. So the 21 is both the mystic and triangular number derived from the number 6, which is the number of Tefereth. And Tefereth, of course, is where that all-important knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel takes place. And so there is some relationship being implied between Cooper and Laura that points towards Tefereth, that points towards the knowledge and conversation. Of course, part of what the novel knowledge and conversation uh, is a realization, an actualization, a motivation towards destiny, what we call in Thelema the true will. So the Cooper and Laura are both meeting destiny, of course, in the series of Twin Peaks, but maybe also in this episode in a certain way, which is a bit strange. It would make more sense in Fire Walk with Me when she jumps off that motorcycle and goes to her death. That 21, that relationship, that's really the moment where both Cooper and Laura's destinies become truly entwined. Also, I'm working to figure out, because if we're saying Cooper is a magician on the path of return, I'm working to figure out who his HGA is. And I suspect, part of me thinks that it's Bob, because when you see Cooper get that full knowledge and conversation of Bob in Series 3, it really does make him whole and gives him a real drive, a real motivating force, a destiny in a peculiar way. And of course, saying that he's whole by season 3 is a bit weird, because we've got the fractious Cooper, the Cooper that's trapped in the Black Lodge, the Cooper that becomes Dougie Jones, the Cooper that is, and then Mr. C. But I think Mr. C of those is the most fully realized character, the most fully capable. The Cooper in the Black Lodge doesn't even have his own body, and then Dougie is. People aren't going to like this word, but it's the clinically correct word. I think Dougie is dumb, like he barely speaks, except to repeat words that are spoken to him, and we'll talk about that later too, because that, I think, kind of in a certain way points at the attainment of the Master of the Temple. But right now we're dealing with the adepthood into Ferrith and the intertwined destinies of Laura and Coop. Maybe Laura is going to be Cooper's HGA. Now, I'll remind people who are skeptical that it does say in Magic Without Tears that perhaps the angel is a human soul, who's finished being human, who's passed on to the next place and is ready to do work as a holy guardian angel rather than as a human being. And I'll also remind people of my interpretation that Laura Palmer is not a regular human being, going through the normal course of incarnation, that she's a weapon employed by the giant against Bob. That she's a spirit in the same way that she's Lilith, the real Lilith, the first woman from the Garden of Eden, who was cast out because of her defiance, and she's temporarily incarnated in a body in order to fascinate the spirit of Bob and keep him captive for as long as possible. Man, look at this tasty bacon. Holy smokes. Things are really starting to happen now. Everything's red again. Things were turning blue and purple gradually, but now we're right in the shit. We got all these red drapes, just like in the Black Lodge. In One-Eyed Jack's. Oh, I was pretty sure that the One-Eyed Jack was the Jack of Hearts, because it's red, and because the one of Hearts, the Jack of Hearts, is one of the ones that only has one eye. And then the Jack of Hearts, we found out, was this important French general who was one of few people who believed in the prophecies of Jeanne d'Arc. And so this faith in saintly women was being pointed at by the symbol of the one-eyed Jack. Also, something to do with prostitution being sacred in Thelema. Something going on there. But I noticed that one of the garters of the women all have cards hanging from their garters, and one of the women has a club hanging from her garters, a 3 of clubs or something maybe. And that the 3 of clubs, even though it's a black card, is red for the sake of the show. So the one-eyed Jack is not necessarily the Jack of Hearts. It might be the Jack of Spades, the other one that only shows one eye. I can't remember. While we're at the casino, let's remember that Jacques Renaud is there dealing cards, and he has hanging from his bolo tie some dice, and the dice are arranged such that both 3s are forward. And so the 3 points up to Binah, to Our Lady Babylon, and I think therefore to Judy. It's the same pair of 3s that Hank has on his weird sucky domino, his adult pacifier. And then let's not forget that 3 plus 3 equals 6. So the 2 3s point at Judy, but also at Tefareth, which reinforces the relationship to the blackjack, the 21 there. Jacques Renaud is dealing a game of 21 wearing the number 6 around his neck. So it's more evidence that we are supposed to make something of this relationship between the number 21 and the number 6, between Cooper and Tefareth, and between both Madeline and Cooper and Laura Palmer. It's interesting that Madeline says she was going to Sparkswood. She points at Sparkswood in 21, because Sparkswood in 21 is the sort of end game for Laura. She jumps off James' motorcycle and goes off to get murdered, and so Maddie is there, maybe foreshadowing that she will be murdered, even though we don't have that story yet until Fire Walk With Me. So it's a foreshadowing that only makes sense on a second or third watch, which a lot of these are going to be. Even serious Qabalah people are not going to be reading into these numbers as they're casually watching a TV show in the evening, I don't think. Red. Everything's red because it's fucking Christmas and Twin Peaks in February, and because this Martian influence is taken back over. Poor Bobby's back in his red t-shirt. Some of that is because they want to show that he has a consistent wardrobe, that a week has passed and, it's day 7 or whatever, and so, on Monday I wear my red school shirt because the school colors are red. But it's when he was plotting against Leo Johnson, he got to wear purple, and there was some righteousness in his vindictiveness. But now that he's going to go and put cocaine in James's gas tank, even though he's there comforting Shelley and saying that, don't worry, this is it, we'll get Leo, we'll finish Leo, and I'm going to take care of you from now on. It sounds like the same kind of righteousness. He just goes right into, and then what else, we'll also get James. Even though James, I think, was on Bobby's list of suspects for the murder of Laura Palmer, he hasn't really done much with that in a couple of episodes. And I think as an audience, James has been ruled out. So now we see that as just raw vindictiveness from Bobby. So hence his no longer operating with the royal influence of benevolent chesed, and is now fully Martian, at least for this episode. The color story for not Donna, the blonde one, Shelley. The color story for Shelley is really interesting because she is, as the wronged party, wearing a robe that I think is blue or green or some cozy color like that. Maybe not with direct Kabbalistic import, but her fingernails are painted red because now she's shot Leo and she feels that she has blood on her hands, like Lady Macbeth maybe. Leo's interestingly also in blue, even though he's like the closest thing we have to a clear bad guy right now. It's Bob, and I mean there's bad dudes all over the place, but in terms of a villain of the series, no one seems more evil than Leo Johnson right now. I mean, holy smokes, he's the prime suspect for the murder. Waldo just said, Leo, no. Why does he get to be in blue? And I think it's because, Catherine and Ben Horn, Catherine was wearing blue and Ben was wearing red when she was confronting him about using the whores at One-Eyed Jack's. And so she was like the wronged party in that. So I think that people who are cheated on by lovers when the arrangement is supposed to be clear and not quite exclusive, but at least well defined, and someone steps outside of the bounds of those definitions, the show puts the victims of that kind of stepping out, the victims of, let's, for the sake of convenience, call it adultery, puts those people in blue. So even though Leo's the baddest of the bad guys, he still gets to wear his ugly Canadian tuxedo. And yeah, it's not a nice blue. It's not the nice blue that Catherine Martel was wearing. So it's a degraded form, but he still gets to show off in that way. Is there anything else I need to talk to you about? Great episode. There's more going on with that unicorn. But I need to do some research first before I know what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not allowed to say. But the thing about virginity is important. These are whores. This is a gift given to these whores as they go off to make their fortune, as they go off, virgin to their careers. And there's something about the way whoredom preserves virginity in Thelema, because the sex is pure in a way. It's purely sex. It's transactional. And then the whore doesn't discriminate against partners, except maybe in terms of who has the money to pay or not. So there's a purity in the act of receiving lovers. And so this thing about the virgin who tames the unicorn, and that this is being given as a symbol of purity to these prostitutes going into One-Eyed Jack's, it almost has a temple prostitute sort of feel, like these women who in Greece, who before they got married would go off to various temples and get paid to receive men and then donate their earnings as a tithe to the temple. And so that act of, the act of sort of sowing her wild oats in that way became an act of purity, something sacred. And there are clues all through this that Laura's death was somehow sacrificial. We'll find out later that the evil gods of Twin Peaks literally consume pain and suffering. The Garmin Bozia. So, is that the sacrifice that's being pointed at? All this stuff that seems granular, maybe it seems meaningless to you, but the point is that the numbers point at something. And whenever I hear people doing analysis, they say, oh, I know, numbers are important to David Lynch. So the fact that we keep seeing that number 6 totem pole totally means something. And so I just wanted to kind of tell you what it means. And even if it doesn't enhance your enjoyment of the series to know, when someone's wearing blue versus when someone's wearing red versus when someone's wearing purple versus when someone's wearing black, the fact, why that informs the narrative. Maybe the narrative things were clear to you already without being commented on by number or color. But where it's clear, it's evidence that the code is valuable. So where it's unclear, you can have more confidence in that interpretation. So when we pick up these breadcrumbs that seem obvious, and then we pick up one that seems less obvious, and we think, oh, that sounds a bit wild, maybe we'll throw it away. But the other ones, the rest of the time, Sephiroth really seem to be helping. So maybe we're right about the owl being Laura Palmer. So that's why it's important, is because even the obvious clues reinforce our faith in the fact that there are clues. And by the way, numerology might be important to David Lynch, but it's Mark Frost who reads Kenneth Grant, and Kenneth Grant who read Crowley. So if these numbers from Sephiroth creep in there, it's because of Marky, Mr. Frost. Good night, and good luck.